Hi there, I'm Jamie Clary. I'm the mayor of Hendersonville, Tennessee. I've been mayor of Hendersonville for since 2016, and I was reelected in 2020. I served for 4-year terms, and that's a very important thing, is that the term for the mayor of Hendersonville is 4 years. My elections are in November, at the same time that the presidential elections are. I've got two children that go to Station Camp Elementary. They're Zachary and Amelia Clary, and I get to spend a lot of time at functions at Station Camp Elementary. That is one of the responsibilities I have as mayor. Is I attend a lot of functions and participate and promote several of the events and the functions that go on in the city, not just in schools, but also at businesses and also at churches and also at community organizations. Really, though, a good portion of my responsibilities, probably 40% of what I do is I answer email, phone calls. I answer questions and communication from residents. I spend a lot of time answering emails and answering phone calls and meeting with people. That's probably a good portion that's probably another 20% of my job is meeting with people. So really the two main things that I do is I answer emails and I sit down at meetings. It's not terribly fun stuff. It really isn't. A lot of the emails and the questions I get are some of the same questions over and over again. So I try to do my best to research and to give people good, solid answers and give them an idea of what the city is doing and what they can do to help and to answer their questions as best I can. On a typical day, I usually go into the office before 8 o'clock, sometimes 7:30 or so. I open up my emails, see what emails have come in overnight. I try to look at the news sort of as I'm answering emails to sort of catch up a little bit. I'll look at any message I have for my staff and do my best to really get that out of the way within the first 2 hours that I'm at work. I usually don't have many meetings in the morning. Most of my meetings are in the afternoon. And I also try not to have meetings on Mondays and Tuesdays before our board meetings. Our board meetings is one of my other big functions. My job as the mayor is not only to work in City Hall every day, but it's also every other Tuesday, I have to lead the meetings that are for our board of mayor and aldermen. Our city is governed by 13 people, and 12 of them are aldermen. Those are just like city commissioners, city council members. And then there's me. So that board is those 12 aldermen and me, and that makes up 13 people. So it's the board of mayor and aldermen. We meet every other Tuesday, and it's my job to suggest an agenda for those meetings, to get the agenda ready so everybody knows what the schedule is, what we're going to spend time at our meetings talking about and discussing. And I've got to put that out ahead of time, the agenda. So then when we have the meeting, it's my job to make sure that we stay on that agenda and that everybody gets the opportunity to talk. But the bigger problem is that people don't talk when other people are talking. We have a rule book and it's about this thick and it's called Robert's Rules of Order. And it's my responsibility to know what those rules are. And again, the number one rule that people seem to violate or forget is that only one person can speak at a time. So I have to keep track of who wants to speak and make sure that nobody tries to speak when somebody else is speaking. The other part about what I do is that I suggest things for the board of mayor and aldermen to consider and to make decisions on, typically to do my best to solve problems. The um, excuse me, the education I have for this is that I went to college and I majored in history and government and I minored in English. It's helpful to have a background in history and government if you're going to be involved in government. I wrote a book on the history of Hendersonville also, and that was very helpful to understand what the past of Hendersonville has looked like. So that helps us make decisions on what the future and what the best thing is for our future. The most rewarding part of my job is when we make those decisions and it works out and that turn out to be good decisions. I'll give you examples. Parklands, when we decide that we're going to change our parks to do something new to our parks, but it's also paving roads and it's also bringing in more police officers and more firefighters. When we make those decisions to do those things and it works out to prove to be a good decision. One of the things that I don't do is I don't decide when schools are open or schools are closed. That's something that is a county function. We have several cities inside Sumner County. And we have city governments, and we also have the county government. And of course, we have a state government and federal government also. But it's the county government that makes the decisions on when schools are open or closed. One of the things that I also want to mention to you is that the challenging part of my job. The challenging part of my job is explaining to people how city government works and how city government works. Sometimes people want us to solve problems that we can't do. And here's an example: is some people wanted us to, when we had a lot of snow and ice this past week, they wanted us to plow the parking lots of grocery stores and other stores. We can't do that. The companies that own the parking lots, they're responsible for plowing those and getting rid of the snow and ice. Our responsibilities are just to get the snow and ice off the city streets. And sometimes that's hard. That's a challenging part, is that people want us to do things that we just really can't do. We can't afford them, or we don't have the authority to do, or the state laws don't allow us to do that. So it's very important to also work on communications as mayor. And I try to communicate to people what we're doing, what we have done, what's going on in the city. And very often it's just, I try to just be helpful and try to let them know things of how to do things before those things come up. And here's two examples. If your trash is missed, if your trash isn't picked up, and that's a city function, I try to let people know ahead of time who to call and how to get their trash picked up. Also this week, I'm going to be letting people know how to get potholes filled. I think you all know what potholes are. Those are the big holes that you see in roads. And those happen very often after we've had a lot of snow and ice. So I'm going to try this week to let people know ahead of time when they see a pothole, how to call the city or how to email the city so we can get those potholes taken care of. So that's something else that I'm doing my best to communicate with people. It's also, I have to do a lot of collaboration because some of the bigger decisions are not just mine. I don't get to make all the decisions. I don't get to make all the rules in the city of Hendersonville, all the laws in Hendersonville. I have to work with those other aldermen, like I mentioned. Sometimes that involves being creative. Sometimes it's not necessarily what I think is the right way to do or what I think is the right direction to go, but I listen to other people and see if they may have some ideas that I didn't have. And sometimes we do have to be creative, but mostly it's about critical thinking. I very much appreciate when we have aldermen, when we have city staff that use critical thinking. If they really look at the opportunities out there and they really look at the problems that we have, and they really try to come up with some solutions and figure out if those solutions will really work. And so I appreciate people that use their critical thinking skills. One more thing. I think that my position contributes to society because my objective, my goal is to help people. I do my best to consider that I think that the city's mission, the city's goal is to solve the most problems for the most people in the most efficient way possible. Uh, Very often that involves, well, that involves police, that involves crime. So I want to make sure our police department gets out there and catches bad guys and prevents that from happening again. It also involves our firefighters. Sure, we want to make sure we put out fires, but we want to help businesses and homeowners prevent the fires in the first place. We want to make sure that people are safe, and we want to make sure that we can prevent the problems that could possibly happen. Also want to make sure that we have good roads, want to make sure that we have good parks where people can go out and play in the parks, and it's what they want to do. And we also want to make sure that people have a sense of pride in the city of Hendersonville also, because we want them to appreciate living here. We want them to feel like they made a good decision to live here, and we want them to stay here. We want them to live here for a very long time. So that's it. That's from Mayor Jamie Clary from the city of Hendersonville, and I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.